AMC shareholder meeting is tonight. We need to talk about that. That is at 2 p.m. ET. GameStop also has their official awards thing premiering tonight on X. I'll link that in the description. That's 7:30 p.m. ET. We also have a Fed rate decision today, which is going to be huge, especially the guidance given coming into 2026, deciding whether these markets are going to flush or enter an extreme rally for the next 6 to 18 months. We also have a solar flare possibly hitting Earth. Massive solar flare hits hits Earth. NASA warns of potential disruptions. NASA confirms X 1.9 solar flare hits Earth within 96 hours. Millions can face blackouts. This is big too because it can affect the markets. As many of you know, we know what our markets run on. Everything is a tech-based system, so that could be a possible black swan event as well. So let's talk about what happened last night. GameStop reported their third quarter earnings results. We had some expectations. Obviously, if you were looking in the comments section yesterday, I was trolling a bunch of haters. It was kind of fun, honestly. Listen, when you play these earnings, it is very, very risky, and you can lose all your money when you play in earnings. Okay, it is a complete degen opportunity, and no one knows what is going to come out. With that being said, Larry Cheng posted he posted bottom line over top line. There's a reason he posted this, and that is because GameStop's earnings yesterday, when they released their top line results, you can see that the company's sales are shrinking. Their net sales are dropping. But as you continue to read, their bottom line, aka their net income overall, after subtracting everything, right? They actually made a higher profit. Net sales were 821 million for the period compared to 860.3 million in the prior year's period. So they dropped net sales. Selling general and administrative expenses were 221.4 million for the period compared to 282 million in the prior year's third quarter. Operating income was 41.3 million for the period compared to an operating loss of 33.4 million in the prior year's third quarter. Excluding impairment and other items, adjusted operating income was 52.1 million for the period compared to an adjusted operating loss of 24.6 million in the prior year's third quarter. Net income was 77.1 million for the period compared to a net income of 17.4 million for the prior year's third quarter. This is actually, let's finish this. Excluding impairment, unrealized loss on digital assets, non-cash interest expense related to the issuance of warrants to convertible note holders and other items, adjusted net income was 139.3 million for the period compared to an adjusted net income of 26.2 million for the prior year's third quarter. Cash and cash equivalents and marketable securities were 8.8 billion at the close of the third quarter compared to a 4.6 billion at the close of the prior year's third quarter. Bitcoin holdings were valued at 519.4 million at the close of the third quarter. Couple things to take out of this. First of all, their bottom line versus their top line, like Larry Cheng posted, shows that their sales are slipping, which people don't like for business long term. But their cash on hand, cash and cash equivalents and marketable securities are astronomically beautiful for any company. And on top of that, they amounted a big net income off of smaller sales, indicating that the entire business has been cleaned up. Their margins have been cleaned up. What they put out, what they hold in inventory, everything has been cleaned up to the point where the cash burn is basically non-existent, right? It's not like AMC where they're burning hundreds of millions of dollars every single quarter. So that is great for the company. Now, what do they have to do with this for a fundamental investor to want to buy GameStop? All they have to do is point out a trajectory of the company. And what I really don't like is that they don't do these earnings calls. And you can say, well, Lottery Stocks, they don't want to give shorts their what they're going to do going forward and all this other stuff. It's not fun when the company doesn't do an earnings call. There's way less hype. There's not like that second catalyst. There's not something else to move the algorithms. It's basically just whatever the algos want to happen on that earnings happens on that earnings, has nothing to do with the supply and demand. I would like an earnings call personally. We also see in the filing 4,422 warrants were exercised, resulting in the issuance of 4,422 shares of common stock and cash proceeds of 141,000. So technically the float got diluted, but that got diluted into buyers, so it did not affect the price. Why would anyone exercise a warrant worth 32 for a share price at 22? Well, it could be a number of reasons. It could be uh, because that somebody wants to help the company. It could be that a short seller wants to exercise warrants that they possibly hold from a hedge, assuming that they got warrants and they want to have enough shares on hand to be able to close their shorts at $32 or less. It could be a number of reasons. It could be some cleanup. It could be some testing of the warrants being exercised, seeing if they work. Either way, it wasn't a huge amount. There was 59 million warrants that were issued. Only 4,000 were exercised. And you're going to see that come up in the filings. This is a big one. Purchase of marketable securities. Now, in the filing, people are looking at this and they're saying, well, they bought more Bitcoin or they bought Ethereum or they bought something crazy. In the filing, it's very specifically stated that these are tier one or whatever marketable securities or whatever it is. And this is basically T-bills. So they put $1 billion into a very, very, very safe asset, right? They put this into treasury bills, likely. Again, I can't say for guarantee. I don't give financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but this is not a risky asset or something that would have been reported in a different section, like alongside the Bitcoin purchase. This is purchase of marketable securities that are likely treasury bills. Why Ryan Cohen is doing this, I don't know. It could be a hedge against something. It could be a hedge against a possible black swan event or something along the lines of that. Now, GameStop is down 6.27% today. Guys, I'm with anyone who played calls. I am getting burnt on the calls, but you know that you take this risk. Now, there's a couple of things we said yesterday. We gave a bullish and bearish case scenario, bullish being more likely, and that is not the case. Okay? For now. Now, I'm going to explain, is this going to turn around? Well, a few days back, we said this was one possibility. It was a possible scenario. I'll just start from here. And this possible scenario was a retracement down to $21 or $20.90. We're now at $21.67. You're coming very close to that. And then following that bars pattern, you would see a massive squeeze higher. Now, this was obviously correlated to what we saw back here and what we were tracking. Now, we can see right now that GameStop specifically is 48 days, almost 49 basically, right now into this cycle that we were tracking. The same time, 48 days, 20 hours, what did you see? Well, it's not the same setup. Again, they don't play exact, but they often rhyme. It's not the same setup, but we did see a drop of about 10%. And then you can't count on anything here, but the next trading day was a Monday where Roaring Kitty tweeted. Obviously, we're not on that same setup because we can't just predict a tweet or an algorithmic break. But the point is that you still did see momentum. And until you get here's what's confirmation that GameStop is going to move lower and not have that rally. FOMC, it's the market today. If the market crashes, we flush down, there's very bad sentiment, or we get a black swan event from the solar flare or DeepSeek or something, which we'll talk about, then GameStop will likely go lower. And how low will it go? Well, we also gave this bearish case scenario where GameStop trades through this exact pattern. And you can see this pattern play out. This piece right here shows the end of the cycle where you bottom and then you map it out, okay? And as you go through, this maps the beginning, the end and the beginning of the next cycle. All right. And you are at a very similar point here. We were tracking this move to the end of the cycle, and you're basically seeing something similar to what we saw last time or last earnings. Not last earnings, but one of the earnings, which I'll show you. If I remove all the drawings right here, we could be seeing something like this. I mean, we had an earnings and you pulled back throughout the night and then the beginning of the next day for the first few hours, 4 hours, right? We're on the 4 hour time frame, and then you catapulted higher. There's no guarantee we can see this, but it happened a few times. Bearish case scenario, if the market ends up crashing, we get bad news. GameStop likely plays out this pattern. Now, bad news, good news. Bad news is GameStop comes down towards 1830, forms a bottom. Good news is you get it at a cheaper price where they can buy back the entire float if we broke under $20. Also, good news is this also indicates a point of interest where you end up rallying late December, early January. So you would still, if you are in January calls, have a possible chance at becoming profitable on that. Now, another bearish, bullish case scenario is we had this wedge drawn out on GameStop's chart, and bearish, you broke down into this wedge. Every time we had a test on this wedge, you got a major rejection, which we covered yesterday, and you took that risk of playing it to the upside, and I did too. And what we got instead was a breakdown and a hard rejection. After you hard rejected on this trend line, every time after you sold off, right? Are we going to sell off and go towards that floor again before squeezing? Good news is this wedge ends at a tip at January 26th on a Monday. And that would be an anniversary to when they squoze last time. I know that's not a word, so I don't really care. That's when they rallied last time in 2021, right? January. Other good news is we fill the gap right here down to 2180 or so. You can see there's a small gap in the chart right here. We did fill a gap in the chart, so that's a good thing as well. And GameStop ultimately is cleaning up the company and has a ton of cash on hand for any sort of ugly market. Okay, with that being said, we're going to talk about an even more bullish case scenario. First of all, the flush down doesn't mean we continue to sell. We did have this box drawn out on the chart as a possible possibility. So we are going to see where it's going to go. I don't think it's over yet. I am still in all my calls. I am still in all my shares, obviously. And we're going to see, as long as hopefully GameStop holds 2090 to 2115, and we get a solid bounce and we get good news today on FOMC, maybe something else, that would be good. Now, AMC paints a very similar picture. It, unfortunately, and I'll give the good news, is that if you play through the same cycle as GameStop, this being the bottom and the reset of the cycle, this being the reset of the new cycle, they play out the same, then this would indicate AMC, where it's trading at right now, right, would continue to fall, with tonight being the first flush, which is scary because we have a shareholder meeting where they're betting on dilution, and then we flush into bang. January 15th hitting an all-time low towards $1.74, right? And then you would possibly have a squeeze, or just a cycle reset where AMC bleeds more into bankruptcy. Now, what's bullish about this is these cycles, including GameStop, this does not last forever. What do I mean by that, lottery stocks? They're always playing a cycle. That's true, but this doesn't last forever in the sense that you get this insane blip out of nowhere, right? And the same thing goes with GameStop. If this cycle only played out back to back to back, you wouldn't see anything like this happen. Okay, so that's the good news, is that as fun as it is tracking these cycles, they don't completely stay. In fact, sometimes things get ugly and we run 600%. Okay, that's just the reality of it. So that's the good news. The bad news is it's lining up with the shareholder meeting. But depending on what happens tonight with the FOMC and with what shareholders vote, it could be a reason for a bullish catalyst as well. Now, Bitcoin has been trying to climb higher. What do I have? Why do I have this triangle on the chart? Well, this is where I'm pretty certain GameStop has their Bitcoin purchase at, based on their report. Now, GameStop is in the negative on this purchase, and that could be a reason that investors are also front-running this company dropping, where they made, their balance sheet shows some decent income and some decent valued securities, but they are ultimately probably down 16% on their Bitcoin holdings. It's something just to watch to see if Bitcoin can reclaim 109, which is where I think GameStop bought it. SPY is trying to hold this line so hard. We broke out of this wedge, broke back into kind of, we're actually based on the top of it, rejecting the top of this as well. Now it has kind of inversed. The SPY is at a crucial level because we are coming down to test that 681 level again. We're very close. The last times we tested it, it was a very, very weak level. Lining up on the FOMC today, if we don't get a bullish Powell, or a dovish Powell, I should say, the floor will fall underneath it again. And where do you go? 674 very quickly. You drop to 674 on the SPY very fast, and that is the bottom of the support zone. What would that look like on the SPY from where it's trading at right now? That would be basically an immediate drop of 1.25%. Okay, 1.25% on the day. So we're going to watch that. However, if we see a bullish Powell, bullish market, the SPY could very well head 1.25% in the other way and run towards all-time highs. I would watch, if we are bullish, I would watch 689.75, basically the highs of the market. What do we have to hear? One, obviously we're getting a rate cut. If we don't, if we get a hold, the markets are dropping. Two, the main thing is the guidance, the forward guidance for 2026. How many rate cuts are we going to get in 2026? How long are we going to hold at the beginning of 2026? Is there going to be, money printer being turned on for the first few months of 2026 or 2026 at all? What's this going to look like? If we hear easing and all sunshine and rainbows, markets are good. I will say, coming into this, it's very scary because the markets have been very wobbly. And I think Powell should take note of this. So wobbly, these markets, that they should be very dovish if they don't want the market to collapse. And if they're not at all, we could see hard moves down. So we'll be watching very closely. There's other things I don't like obviously we still have that carry trade we're watching, repo markets, things going on with the bank. Given some things have cleaned up with that, we're just not in the best scenario for a risk-on environment, in my opinion, just yet. And the fact that Bitcoin did already test 80K is pretty good. Doesn't mean we're going lower. I don't want to ramble on too much, but I kind of just want to give my plain opinions on the spot on this. So watching it, am I playing it? I don't know. If I'm playing it, I'll probably grab 0 day to expiration YOLO puts, maybe at like 220, 10 minutes before the data drops. Here's the thing, we're probably getting a cut. When that cut comes out, is it going to be insanely bullish for the market? Maybe not. They're going to wait for Powell to speak. The data actually might come out at 2 p.m. and then Powell speak at 2:30, something like that. China's DeepSeek is set to announce a new AI model that used NVIDIA's Blackwell chips, which were smuggled into the country. DeepSeek reportedly tapped chips installed in data centers in various countries, then dismantled and shipped to China. DeepSeek excuse is coming back soon. I posted this on December 1st, 2025. And you guys watch. Now, Elon Musk's SpaceX is reportedly preparing for an IPO in 2026 that would raise $30 billion and value the company at $1.5 trillion, making it the largest IPO in history. That is basically all I got for you guys for today's video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I appreciate all the support. Join the Discord link in the description down below. As far as, there are some things I don't even want to address, honestly, because there's no point. I think that's basically it. Let me know your thoughts on GameStop's chart. We're down about 6.43%. We still have to realize that, you know what, actually, this is one thing I wanted to address before I forget, because last night I was pissed about the earnings, truly, but I was with family, so I didn't have time to look into anything. I don't like that, we get hyped up. Honestly, it's been pissing me off. It's a bunch of bullshit. We get, hyped up by, these... They're trying to do these cryptic tweets like Ryan Cohen and everything. Really, these cryptic tweets before a 7% drop and no earnings call is honestly disgusting to shareholders. I know everyone likes the guy. I, essentially like the guy better than Aron. Just an opinion, guys. Don't be so angry about these opinions. Just feel free to have your own. Relax. But I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments down below. That is it. I love you all. God bless. Lottery stocks out. Oh, you know what, guys? Let me know what you're voting on the AMC shareholder meeting as well. I'm curious. Peace.